The following is a Spirit Street production.
Big B is off today, so I'm in charge. Best of luck to all of us who are involved, including my buddy Adam from the CU side. This is the Big 12 Insiders, and will the Buffaloes be for real in year 2 of Coach Brien? We will discuss that and more on this episode. Here we go.
Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
I'm not Brien. I'm not. Tim Fitzgerald, Cats and Dogs Studio Manhattan. My brother, Adam Munsterteiger, the greatest name in our profession. Adam, thank you for doing this. This is great. This is a couple of old rivals buddies now reuniting in the Big 12 on 24/7. It's fun.
Yeah, I feel like we've orbited each other for a very long period of time, like 20 plus years. But this is, I think, the first time we've done a one-on-one, so it should be fun.
Yep, it should be. Well, let's start with Joel Klatt's tweet. I'm sure you saw it, where he predicted that it's entirely possible, and the word possible leaves a lot of wiggle room. I agree that Colorado plays for a Big 12 title. Give me your thoughts on that, and what are the possibilities of that?
When I look at this Colorado football team coming off last year, I feel pretty confidently that this is going to have a decent floor to it in terms of, I think this is going to be a 6-win Colorado football team. Now, where is the ceiling with this group?
Yeah,
that's so hard to say. And we've talked about it on your show before with Big B, is just the parity that's going to exist in this conference right now. This isn't one of those years you get the preseason mag and go in pen, win-loss with a schedule. You can't do that. And there's going to be a lot of things they're going to kind of play out that will look a lot differently a couple months than they do from now, right now. But Colorado, having covered this program through a lot of rough seasons, the talent level on this football program is among the best that it's been, kind of rivaling 2016 when they won the Pac-12 South title. But there are those question marks. You're going to have 2 new coordinators, and how does that all work? With guys that have more NFL experience. Again, very heavy in the transfer portal. So how does that team chemistry come along? And those are hard things to answer. Now you have Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, an improved offensive line, quite a bit of talent at receiver, and a defense that, it has question marks, but I think it's going to be serviceable this fall. Right. And so there's a lot to kind of point to in terms of reasons why I think the floor should be 6 wins for this Colorado team. It's just so hard to say what is the ceiling for this group if it all comes together.
Yeah, of all the tough calls in the Big 12, Colorado might be the most difficult. And you're right. I'm going to use my time on an airplane here tomorrow to maybe go through the schedule and actually pick wins and losses for all the games. It's the only way you can do it. I mean, if you're going to make a prediction on a pecking order of what this conference will look like come early December, you better go through each game. And a lot of conferences, it's easy. I mean, what the pecking order is, so you know what teams will win and probably win on the road. The Big 12, let's be honest, stick with the Vegas theme here. It's a crapshoot. You don't know what you're going to get in a lot of these games, and even the games you think you know what you're going to get. Believe me, I've learned that from sports betting. The surest of locks in this conference sometimes turn out to be the big upsets, and it's a chaotic conference, even more so now without Oklahoma and Texas. There was a thing about Oklahoma and Texas, and it's hard to deny. You knew where you stood with those 2 programs. You knew if you could compete or if you were in over your head. Texas's this raw talent would beat you. So that gave you 1 or 2 games on your schedule. You kind of knew easily what to predict. Now it's all just a mess. But 6 wins for Colorado, it seems attainable. It starts with North Dakota State, which K-State's gotten bit by them. And that would be significant for Colorado, wouldn't it? Just to get back into the bowl business, it would feel like a big step forward.
Yeah, I think you'd have a little bit different opinions if you were to poll Colorado fans of if they go 6 wins or 7 wins and get to a bowl game, was that a success given the talent of Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter and the fact that this is now year number 2 and you've brought all this talent in. So there's going to be that faction of the fan base that is disappointed with that. But yeah, I mean, I have not covered that many bowl games, Fitz, and I've been in this game for a long time. And so it seems pretty easy for a lot of programs to get 6 wins and get bowl eligible every year. Colorado just hasn't had that. So there is part of me that says you should just enjoy that because that's something that's been rare around Colorado in recent years. But again, you're going to have to kind of – the expectation is that Coach Prime's going to be in Boulder beyond 2024. And a lot of people don't believe that in terms of the national media. Everything that I've seen and heard around here suggests that he will indeed be the head coach next year. And you're going to have a pretty big rebuild again, especially with Shedeur and Travis, like I mentioned, just elite talent, guys that are going to, be drafted really highly next year. There is part of you that knows you got to squeeze everything you can out of this 2024 season, given how special those 2 guys are.
There's not many teams with 2 legitimate Heisman hopefuls on the same roster. And they both are. All of college football was shorted by Travis Hunter's injury. Just a spectacular athlete, just unbelievable. I mean, he's an All-American defensive back and receiver. That level of talent is just incredible. I see why he and Dion connected, from the start, because that was Dion. And I got to tell you, if Colorado makes it to a bowl, I really hope it's the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Because
me too, yeah.
the vision of maybe Ralphie making a road trip to chase Strawberry the Pop-Tart around the stadium would be absolutely fantastic. Strawberry 2, because Chris Kleiman and Avery Johnson ate Strawberry 1. It's just ugly, just vicious. But yeah, I know it'd be disappointing for Colorado fans, but sometimes just taking the steps is the best way to do it. But you're right, the talent is there. Now, my big question is, does the talent include an offensive line that'll play at a higher level than a year ago?
Yeah, no, again, kind of back to my initial answer, feeling very confidently that the floor of that group is going to be somewhere that is pretty good, whether that's 6 wins or this offensive line. I feel like there's very little chance with the number of guys they brought in that have starting experience and did well at other places, a lot of Power 4 transfers into that offensive line group, that they've now got a 2 deep that's really going to push each other. Last year, you could kind of pencil in the starting offensive line, and they were guys in a lot of spots that were coming from a Kent State or Missouri City College. And it's now this year, what you've done is brought in a lot more proven experience at this level. And it's a group that has a different moxie to it. Last year's offensive line group was actually, I would say, somewhere in the neighborhood of decent to just a decent group through the first 3 games. And then other teams kind of started to exploit that group, especially on the interior. And it became pretty clear that that was the weak link offensively. So other teams pinned their ears back, and that group just turtled. The guys that they brought in this year are the guys in all the behind the scenes video we get on YouTube from Coach Prime's media team that are stirring things up. This is in your face. It's a different mentality that they have on that offensive line. Whereas last year, you like some of the pieces, but there was this timidness to that group. And there were times when Shedeur Sanders would get knocked to the turf time after time, and there weren't guys there lifting him up. They didn't have that camaraderie. And so you see Shedeur Sanders at his favorite steakhouse with the offensive line every week. And so there's definitely those things that make you feel like that group has a chance to be pretty good. Now, it is going to be among the best in the Big 12. That would be quite a turnaround from where they were last year. And there's just so many new pieces. It's hard to say where that ceiling is. But this isn't a group that's going to allow Shedeur Sanders to get sacked more than 50 times like he did in 2023.
That's a rough stat. Just as the impact of a team and your offense, that's a disability you can't overcome. But the wear and tear on your quarterback's body is also horrific. We learned Shedeur can throw the ball on the run. He's got that ability. Is he going to be the same kind of presence if he just gets to stand tall in the pocket and view the field?
Yeah, we didn't see a whole lot of him having time in the pocket last year. You're right. But in terms of, I mean, like any quarterback that is accurate, like Shedeur, he's going to do much better having that time in the pocket. There were times last year where he couldn't even get to his first read before he's got somebody's hands on him. This year, being able to see the field and see who's open is going to be something new for him on a lot of the time. So no, it was pretty ugly last year. And again, you saw in the spring game, there were a couple mess ups in terms of the protection, but generally that group looked just eyeball test. You could see a major difference there. And Shedeur looked a lot more comfortable as a result. I think he completed 8 of 10 passes, and then they pulled him out because you're not going to risk injury to him. But looked pretty sharp. Looked pretty sharp behind that new offensive line.
When you bring a group of guys together in an offensive line, it's going to take a while to learn everyone's dance steps, to be in sequence and do the things you need to do. And that's something a lot of programs face when just sliding in 2 or 3 new guys, let alone kind of rehabbing the whole group. I am really intrigued by Colorado, and I want to revisit your comment that Deion will be there for into the future. Do you see him reforming? I don't want to, that sounds like I'm saying as a negative. The way he's used the transfer portal has been brilliant and, just really groundbreaking. But is that sustainable? And do you see him changing his ways with so much work in the portal?
Yeah, he came to Colorado with kind of a 40-40-20 model of he wanted to get 40% transfers with multiple years of eligibility, 40% transfers that were going into their final year of eligibility, and then just 20% from the high school ranks. I'll be honest, when I heard those numbers initially, I said, there's no way. Because, it just hadn't been done before. Understanding that Colorado does not have a recruiting hotbed around here, that they've got to go out to Texas, California, they're recruiting Florida and Georgia really heavily now. You're just never going to have kind of that base of high school guys that are going to want to come play there unless they start having success, and then maybe that changes. But I think you're going to continue to see really small recruiting classes from the high school ranks, somewhere in the 10 to 15 range. 15 would actually be a pretty on the pretty high end for them right now in terms of high school guys. So they're going to try to continue to utilize the portal. There are the questions of what does that do for your team chemistry year to year. I guess Colorado's kind of the case study as far as that goes, because we haven't seen it before. So our kids different nowadays. They communicate differently. And the world's a smaller place because of the internet. So maybe it doesn't take as long for transfers to mesh than it would have been, when we were in college and you needed to kind of build those relationships. But now kids they're all connected, it seems. And so maybe that makes it easier from a chemistry standpoint. But I guess this fall and what Colorado does in year 2 of this rebuild, we'll start to kind of tell, exactly how successful that strategy can be.
Adam, that's a great point. I mean, these kids build relationships, DMing, gaming, probably ways we don't even understand in our old brains. We had to use telegraph to communicate with anyone. And sometimes just, get the pony, give them a note and tell them where to go. But it has changed everything. And we do see kids now involved in recruiting, sliding into those DMs to try to get someone, romance them into coming to your school. It's a wildly different frontier of recruiting right now. And for all the downsides we talk about, that's kind of a cool plus, that the kids can build relationships before they even meet face to face. It's crazy in this world. I didn't know very little about this Colorado defense. We all tend to focus on those weapons and that offensive line for how bad it was. Tell me a little bit about this defense and, will it be able to hold up through a sustained schedule?
Yeah, I would say the outlook is a little bit more pessimistic when looking at Colorado's defense compared to that offense. And I talked about the offensive line's improved, and there are reasons to think that Colorado's defense could get better, especially with the transfers they brought in. But they have a new defensive coordinator. Robert Livingston comes over from the NFL. He was with the Cincinnati Bengals for about a dozen years. This is his first time calling a defense, and it's one of those things where you go into covering spring ball, and the defensive coordinator that comes in says all the right things and seems to be relaying the proper message. And so you get kind of optimistic about what that unit has in terms of its potential, but it's going to be his first rodeo in that role. So, that's makes it challenging to handicap a little bit. There is, I would say Colorado probably will have, if there's one position group that I would be most confident in saying they have the best position group, it would be at cornerback. They brought in Preston Hodge from Liberty. He was their highest graded player last year, and he looked phenomenal this spring. He can play in the nickel, play corner, and Travis Hunter, they've been tinkering with in the nickel back role as well. So basically, Travis Hunter is going to guard the other team's best receiver, whether that's in the slot or out wide. And DJ McKinney comes over from Oklahoma State. And, talking to folks that covered him out there, he was the one guy that they really didn't – when he hit the transfer portal, kind of like what Dylan Edwards did to Colorado, was it's like that one hurts a little bit. There's some names where you go, okay, that's good attrition or that's okay attrition. For Oklahoma State, the folks out there said that DJ McKinney was a guy with a really high ceiling. He comes in and establishes himself as a starter in that cornerbacks group and they're going against pretty talented receivers as well, especially when Travis is over on that side of the ball. So that is the group that I would look to as the most likely to really shine this year. Now the front seven struggled at times against the run last year. There's rumors that Shiloh Sanders might not be ready for the season opener. So there's a lot more question marks, I feel like, on that side of the ball than you have on the other side on offense.
Well, let's take our first break of the show and hear from Synergy Financial Partners, our sponsor. We appreciate Jeff and all the good people at Synergy for going along with the ride, and we will be back shortly with more discussion of Colorado football and also rejoining the Big 12 and what these four schools from the Pac-12 will bring the conference. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the vision is to build the world's largest consumer financial education and empowerment company. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's return to Studio 73.
Welcome back to the Thursday edition of the Big 12 Insiders. Big B had something that tied him up today. Not literally. I mean, who could tie up Big B? He'd fight back. But he'll be back tomorrow, and I won't be here tomorrow because I'll be heading to Vegas to celebrate number 60. And Big B will have Mike Casaza from the West Virginia side to talk about the two remaining Big 12 baseball programs that are still in the tournament. Who would have thought it'd be K-State and West Virginia, but here we are. And also to fill my role on the Ask Big B days. So make sure you come armed with your questions about anything Big 12 related. West Virginia, K-State, they'll be here to do that. And then everyone will try to keep track of me in Vegas. It's not going to be easy. I'm praying for myself. Adam, is it weird being back? I mean, you broke up with the girlfriend and now 10 years later, whatever it is, you're back with her. I mean, it's just kind of odd.
The Pac-12 experience was such a mess for Colorado that I think that removes some of that awkwardness. And then it's a different conference now. It looks so much different than when Colorado was last a member. And that's why it will be fun for the Kansas State and Oklahoma State rivalries to be renewed. I don't know if it ever got to a point of pure hatred between those fan bases, but there's history there. And Colorado never really had that in the Pac-12. I think there's some fans that had an issue with this coach or this player here and there, but there wasn't this animosity when this particular program would come into Folsom Field. And so there's going to be a little bit more of that now. It's not going to be, again, like I said, not the same as it used to be because of no Nebraska, Missouri, Texas, Oklahoma, but there's enough history, but enough newness within that history that I don't think it really makes it as awkward. And I think just the way that the Pac-12 fumbled that whole television deal, it was to the point of we're just happy to know where Colorado is going to be for the foreseeable future and until the next shakeup of college football, and get the heck out of this Pac-12.
Who knows when that next shakeup might be? It might be 10 years or it might be tomorrow. It's just like a ticking bomb. We don't know how much is on the timer. I would say of all the teams to go through a realignment situation, Colorado by far is in the best position. You're joining a conference where you have, had former kinship with a lot of the schools, some of the schools, and bringing along some buddies from your previous conference. So you have a lot of familiarity with some of these programs. I personally, on a, selfish note, I missed going to Colorado on work trips, whether it was basketball or football. And we'll be driving out there because K-State goes to Boulder this year. So that is a very nice thing to get back. And I'm not going to miss Texas. It's kind of weird. Colorado left the Big 12 because it had crappy leadership, and it looked like it was going to fall apart. And joined the Pac-12, which had crappy leadership and did fall apart. It's kind of weird.
I'll tell you, Larry Scott was a pretty good snake salesman. He was very convincing. He seemed like the right guy for that job. But over the course of his tenure, and then the stories came out about his lavish spending on himself and really not treating his employees correctly. And it really was a toxic environment. And it started with Larry Scott. And by the time George Kliavkoff took over as the Pac-12 commissioner, it would have been really, really tough to make that conference survive. But he fumbled the ball at every turn as well. And it started by not having his pulse on USC and UCLA and being on vacation when they left the conference. You've got to have a better knowledge of your member institutions to be caught off guard like that. And then basically the Pac-12 could have had the television deal that the Big 12 agreed to, but there were a couple Pac-12 presidents that thought they could get more money. So television turns around and says, hey, Big 12, you want this contract? And they gobble it up, and Pac-12 is left out in the dark. And so it was just a mess. And as much as those road trips were fun, it was great going to the Bay Area and eating a whole crab on, the pier before covering a game. But then you'd get to the stadium the next day and there was no atmosphere. No. And so I'm looking forward to kind of flipping that around. And maybe there's not going to be the San Francisco pier, but there's going to be rabid fans wherever you go in the conference.
Well, do me a favor here real quick. I want you to rank those atmospheres for the 4 incoming schools from the Pac-12. What's the best down to the worst, including Colorado, if you can give that an honest assessment.
Yeah, it's kind of almost your age range. I think Arizona State, if you're a younger person, you're going to have a lot of fun out on Mill Avenue, and there's a lot of great scenery around there. Arizona, if you're into golf, Tucson is a great place to get around in. And so that's the redeeming quality there. And I would say Rice-Eccles Stadium, Utah, just the picturesque, it's actually one of the better press box views you get. And so if you're on, what would that be? The West Side, you're going to get just a beautiful view of campus and the mountains. And their press box food is the best of those 3. So that's the tiebreaker. I'm going to go Utah just based on the press box food.
I always said from the very start of this possible realignment in Utah coming to the Big 12, and they seem so reluctant to do so, that they don't know it, but they are actually very Big 12 like. The way their fans are, the way they pack the stadium. I think they're going to find they fit into the Big 12 pretty damn well, and they'll be surprised.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that, but you're right. There's the vibe around there on game day is among the closer, whereas Yeah, Arizona and Arizona State are not really going to give you that unless they're playing really good football, and then kind of the fair weather faction comes out. But Utah is a fun place to cover a game for sure.
I'm happy about this expansion because I'm a Flatlander. I've grown up in Kansas. We think the Flint Hills are basically mini mountains, and they're just kind of bumps. The K-State travel schedule this year takes us to Morgantown, to Boulder, and where else? So we got another one. BYU. So we got mountains everywhere, and it's going to be a fun, expensive season of covering games. But this conference is, I'm absolutely dumbfounded by how fun this conference could be. And I think the fans from these Pac-12 schools, and certainly older Colorado fans will know this, when you wander into Ames or Manhattan or Stillwater, that game is the most important thing in the week to everyone. And that value shows up in just the overall atmosphere and the electric feeling. I would see a picture of Cal on a game day, and I'm like, oh, criminy. K-State played at Stanford not long ago, and it was on one of their student breaks because they were on trimesters, but there was no real importance to that game, and even the way they ran the game and up in the press box didn't feel important to them. So you're not going to encounter that. You're going to encounter a bunch of schools that really put a lot of effort into not just being good at football, but enjoying it. I mean, really making it a spectacle.
Yeah, the downside of that is I feel like this conference is going to cannibalize itself, and because the focus is going to be on the Big Ten and the SEC, that it's going to be tough to get a lot of teams in the college football playoff. But from a week-to-week enjoyment factor, I think we're in for a lot of entertaining football, and so for that part of it, I think it's going to be great.
The Big 12 is a perfect example of the double-edged hype sword in the media. In basketball, when they all beat each other up, it's because they're so good. In football, when they go and beat each other up, it's because they're so bad. They'll just say, whoever wins the conference, well, you had it easy. Look at everyone else went 7-5 or 8-4, but in reality, it's hyper competitive. If you're into sports betting, I think it's going to be a blast to try to navigate this conference. And that's something we got to worry about now in this current age. But I'm really fired up. I really want to see those other three Pac-12 institutions, their fan bases, begin to find out that football is just more important. It just is. And it just didn't seem, maybe it was because you've got, Seattle and the Bay Area and LA and Phoenix, and there's so much other stuff going on that it doesn't hold the same kind of stature as college football and basketball do in Big 12 schools. But I can guarantee you this, the bar districts are going to be funner and more fun in a college town. That's important to me, Adam. That's not as important as it used to be. Who's the games that you see on the Colorado schedule this year that are kind of the swing games? We're going in the right direction. Things are coming off the rails with those outcomes.
You got to just start with non-conference. You mentioned North Dakota State. That's a program that is just known for knocking off FBS teams. And so
culture.
You don't get to ease into the schedule. And then you go on the road at Nebraska, which they've had such turnover prone quarterbacks. They've had a hard time winning games in recent years, but that's a tough environment to play in. And then you play at Colorado State in Fort Collins for the first time. They built a new stadium a handful of years ago. And so it right off the bat there. And then, you just go down the line. There are so many coin flip games on this schedule. I can't remember a season where, again, for Colorado, at least, with some of the question marks that they have, and not being as intimately informed on every Big 12 program, that's something that I'm looking forward to doing out at Media Day next month. But you gotta come out of the chute pretty hot, I think. Yeah. And we saw it last year. They got hot, but then when the adversity hit, Stanford has a 29-point comeback against them. They didn't respond to that adversity very well, and so I think they're going to be smacked with some adversity in those early games, and they better show that they're a little bit more resilient in that sense.
I think outside of West Virginia, Colorado, what it's biting off in the non-conference might be as challenging as anyone in this league. I mean, you basically have two rivalry games in there. I mean, Colorado State views you as the big brother that, you know, they want to win this game a horse and brag about it for the next 10 years. And Nebraska, that was just becoming such a great rivalry in the Big 12, and then it ended. So that still hangs around. I love that you're playing them. And you also decided, hey, let's juggle a hand grenade and play North Dakota State, which has been in a lot of programs. New coach this year, but again, that culture is amazing. They just expect to win wherever they go, and they often do it. So I admire that quite a bit. Well, I'm eager to see what Colorado does this season. In a conference of unknowns, they are the biggest unknown. You could pick them for last, or you could go Joel Klatt's direction and pick them for one of the top two spots and play in Arlington. It's going to be a fun ride to figure it out. I appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. Let's take our second break. I'll be back to wrap up the show and maybe give you a little peek into the future, what we're going to be doing with this channel. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the mission is to change the way Americans plan for their financial future. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's return to Studio 73.
Welcome back to the Big 12 Insiders. Fitz sitting in for Big B today here in the Cats and Dogs studio. We're having a lot of fun covering the Big 12. And you might have heard that a certain satellite radio company is shutting down its live programming covering the Big 12. And so we will be expanding what we do come in the fall and going 5 days a week. But over the summer, we're going to back up to 3 days a week, and we're going to experiment with not being live. We'll still have show premieres at 1 p.m. every day, Central Time. But we will do a lot more topical things so that maybe we can pre-record. And all of us in this industry, like coaches, need the summer to recharge and get ready to go through football and basketball season. That coverage string, those 8 months or whatever it is, 6 months, are brutal. And so we're going to take some downtime here in the summer and do more topical shows. They'll still run at the same time. And I hope you like that. If you're not subscribing, please, I'm begging you, please subscribe to this channel. I know there's a lot of people on Twitter also right now watching. Hop on over to YouTube and look for the Big 12 Insiders channel and subscribe to that and get us over 1,000. We're pretty close. Also, with the thought of we're going to do more topical shows, drop them in the comments, whether you're on Twitter or YouTube, some ideas for topical shows. Of course, we'll be doing, rankings of players and coaches and stadiums and even like road trips. Are there any things that you would like to see us discuss? Uniforms, concessions. The media is the worst people to rank concessions because we get media meals. We could probably rank that, but give us some ideas. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. Big B and I are going to do a lot of shows together here this summer, and we'll see where this thing goes. And it's been a lot of fun watching this channel grow. It'll continue to grow, and I appreciate everyone so much who watched, and it was good to reconnect with my buddy Adam, who we used to work side by side in the old Big 12 and cover our two teams. That's it for today's show. Big B will be back tomorrow with a guest, and it's Ask Big B Day. It's always fun. I'm going to miss it. Talk to you later.
Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders. This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.